You know, a mother never expects her own child to abandon her. Not really. Not when it matters. I'm Maribel, I'm 78, and I've learned that a heart can be broken in more ways than one. The hospital gown felt like paper, scratching my skin in the pre-op room. It was 6 a.m. in a cold Minnesota winter, and the monitors beeped a steady, lonely rhythm. Dr. Jareth called it an aortic valve replacement. He used kind words, but his eyes said what his mouth wouldn't. This was dangerous. I missed my husband, Lowell, so much in that moment. I wasn't scared of dying. I was scared of going through this alone. I just needed to hear my son's voice. My only son, Oswin. My hands, stiff with arthritis, fumbled for the plastic phone. It rang twice. I pictured him driving over from the big house I helped him buy. Mom? His voice was muffled. There was music. Steel drums. Oswin? Where are you? I whispered. I heard my daughter-in-law, Kala, laugh. Oh, just tell her, Oswin. We're boarding. My heart, the very one they were about to fix, seemed to stop. Boarding? I asked. Oswin, what is she talking about? He sighed, a sound of pure annoyance. Look, Mom, we're at the port of Miami. The cruise, we couldn't cancel it. Kala said it was non-refundable. We just can't lose that kind of money. I couldn't breathe. My surgery, I stammered. It's today, Oswin. It's my heart. I know, Mom, I know, he said, but you're tough. You'll be fine. Kala says hi. We'll send you a postcard from Jamaica. Gotta go, they're calling our group. The line clicked. He was gone. Non-refundable. The word echoed. He chose a vacation over his mother's life. A nurse I didn't recognize, a young woman named Naoma, came in. All right, Maribel. It's time. I didn't cry. I felt something new. It wasn't fear. It was ice. As they wheeled me toward the blinding lights, I thought of the farm Lowell and I sold, giving Oswin the down payment. I had made myself poor so he could be rich. I closed my eyes. When I woke up hours later, groggy and in pain, Nurse Naoma was there. Maribel, your surgery went well, she said softly. But the doctor, he found something else while you were under. An irregularity in your admission papers. I was floating in a fog of pain medication, but her words cut through. An irregularity? I mumbled, my throat raw. What papers? Nurse Naoma looked uncomfortable. She was young, but her eyes were serious. She held a clipboard with a few sheets of paper. This, she said, tapping the bottom of a form. This power of attorney document. It was filed by your son, Oswin Miller, yesterday morning. Just before he left. My head spun, and not from the drugs. I don't remember signing that. That's the thing, Maribel, Naoma said, lowering her voice. Dr. Jareth didn't think the signature looked right. And, it gives your son complete control over your medical decisions if you're incapacitated. He also filed this. She showed me a second form. My eyes struggled to focus, but I could make out the big, black letters, do not resuscitate. I felt a new chill, colder than the pre-op room. I had never signed a DNR. I had never given Oswin power of attorney. I flashed back to 2 weeks ago. Kala had stopped by, all smiles and perfume. Just some boring insurance papers, Maribel. You know how it is. Sign here and here. She'd been pointing, her long fingernail tapping the paper. I'd signed. I'd trusted her. I'd trusted my son. They hadn't just gone on vacation. They had planned this. They must have hoped the surgery would leave me confused, unable to speak for myself. They were going to put me in a home. The cheapest one they could find. The DNR, that was Callah's touch. It was neat. It was tidy. A hospital administrator, a grim-looking man in a suit, came in with Dr. Jareth. "Mrs. Miller," the administrator said, "your son and his wife are listed as your emergency contacts. They are unavailable. We need to discuss your discharge planning. Your son's document requests a transfer to the St. Jude's Extended Care Facility." St. Jude's. It was the place you went to be forgotten. They had tried to bury me before I was even dead. The anger was like a shot of adrenaline. It cleared my head faster than any medicine. "Get me a lawyer," I said, my voice hoarse but firm. The administrator blinked, surprised. Dr. Jareth just nodded, a small, knowing look on his face. "I thought you might say that," he said. Nurse Naoma stayed by my side. "My cousin, he works in elder law," she whispered after the men left. "He's a good man. He hates this kind of thing." I gripped her hand. "Call him," I ordered. As I lay there, I thought about my husband, Lowell. He was a quiet man, a farmer who understood soil and seasons. He never trusted Callah. "Oswin is soft, Mari," he told me, mending a fence one evening. "And Callah is sharp. Protect yourself." I'd brushed it off. "He's our son, Lowell." But Lowell had protected me. Before he died, he'd forced me to sit with a lawyer. "This is the farm money," he'd said, splitting the accounts. "This part is for Oswin. This part," and he'd tapped a thick folder, "is the ironclad. It's just for you. Don't you ever tell them about it." I'd forgotten. In my grief, I'd forgotten. The lawyer Naoma called, a young, sharp man named Mr. Kincaid, arrived that afternoon. I told him everything. About the farm. About Callah's insurance papers. He looked at the POA and the DNR. "This is forgery, Maribel. Plain and simple. And the DNR, this is attempted murder. I want them to lose," I whispered. "I want them to feel what I felt." Mr. Kincaid nodded. "We can get the POA and DNR invalidated today. But, the revenge? That will take a little more time." Just then, a bouquet of gaudy, tropical flowers arrived at the nurse's station. The card was from Oswin and Callah. 10 days later, I was discharged. I went back to my empty, silent house. That evening, a car pulled into my driveway. Oswin and Callah, tan and smiling, walked up my porch steps. Callah was holding a small box. "Mom! You're home. We were so worried," she chirped. "We brought you a souvenir." They brought me a cheap gift after trying to end my life. I sat in Lowell's old armchair, a thick quilt over my healing chest. I didn't get up when they came in. Callah bustled past me. "Oof, Mom, it's so cold in here. You should have let us move you somewhere warmer." Oswin just stood by the door, looking guilty. He couldn't even meet my eyes. Callah placed the cheap, colorful box on my coffee table. "It's a snow globe," she said, as if she'd brought me the crown jewels. "It plays a steel drum song. To remind you of us." I just stared at it. A tiny plastic palm tree suspended in fake snow. "The surgery," Oswin finally mumbled, "the doctor said it went well?" "It did," I said, my voice like gravel. "No thanks to you." Callah's smile twitched. "Maribel, don't be dramatic. We told you, it was non-refundable. We would have lost thousands. You're fine, see? It all worked out." "Did it?" I asked. I looked straight at my son. The doctor found something while I was under. Oswin's fake concern was immediate. Oh no, Mom. What is it? Is it bad? Calla put her hand on his arm. Don't worry, Maribel, she said, her voice like syrup. Whatever it is, Oswin and I will handle it. We have all your paperwork. We're in charge of your care now. This was it. The moment. I let the silence stretch out, the only sound the ticking of the grandfather clock. You mean, I said, my voice quiet but carrying, the power of attorney you signed for me? Their faces froze. Calla's smile evaporated. Oswin went pale. And the DNR? I whispered, leaning forward. Was that non-refundable, too? Calla's eyes widened in genuine shock, not that I had found out, but that I was awake and talking about it. She's delirious, Oswin, Calla snapped. The anesthesia. She's confused. I have never, I said, been less confused in my life. I pointed to the door. Get out. You can't talk to us like that. Calla shrieked. This is your house. Not for long, I said. Mr. Kincaid, you can come in now. That's right, I had a surprise waiting. They thought I was weak, but I was just getting started. Mr. Kincaid stepped out from my kitchen, holding a thick file. He was not a big man, but he filled the room. Calla looked like she'd seen a ghost. Who the hell are you? She demanded. This is my lawyer, I said, enjoying the moment. Mr. Kincaid, this is my son, Oswin, and his wife, Calla. Mr. Kincaid didn't smile. Mr. and Mrs. Miller. I'm here to serve you with these documents. He handed a packet to Oswin, who was frozen in place. What is this? Oswin whispered, his hands trembling. That, Mr. Kincaid said, is a notice. My client, Maribel Miller, has activated a clause in a private family trust. A trust you were not aware of. Calla snatched the papers from Oswin. She read the first page, her face turning an ugly shade of red. A loan? What loan? The down payment was a gift. No, it wasn't, I said, finding my strength. My husband Lowell was a smart man. He knew I was soft, as he put it. The money for your house, it was a conditional loan from the Ironclad Trust. Mr. Kincaid took over. The terms of the loan were simple. 0 interest, for as long as you provided comfort, support, and care to Maribel in her old age. The benefactor, Maribel, is the sole judge of whether those terms have been met. You can't. Calla sputtered. You can't just decide. I can, I said. You abandoned me during heart surgery. You forged documents to take my rights. You signed a paper to let me die. I think that qualifies as failing to provide support. The loan, Mr. Kincaid continued, is now called in. Effective immediately. The full amount, plus 20 years of compounding interest. You have 30 days to pay, or the bank forecloses. Calla collapsed onto my sofa, the snow globe rattling. You can't do this. We'll be ruined. We'll lose the house. You lost it, I said, when you chose a cruise. I stood up, pushing the quilt away. Now, get out of my home. They thought they were ruining me, but they only woke me up. They left. Calla was screaming about ungrateful old witches. Oswin was silent, tears streaming down his face. The sound of their car spinning gravel out of my driveway was the sweetest sound I'd heard in weeks. The next day, I had Mr. Kincaid change my locks. My revenge wasn't just about punishment. It was about rebuilding. I felt a new sense of purpose. I was 78, I had survived a broken heart, and I had a lot of money that my son didn't know about. The Ironclad Trust wasn't just the loan, it was the entire profit from our farm sale, invested wisely by Lowell for decades. I thought about Nurse Naoma, who had held my hand. I thought about Dr. Jareth, who had questioned the signature. I called my lawyer. Mr. Kincaid, I said, I want to make a donation to the hospital. A big one. A week later, I met with Dr. Jareth and the hospital board. They were expecting a small-town donation. I told them I wanted to fund an entire new cardiac wing. And, I added, I want to create a new training grant for geriatric nurses. The Naoma Grant, we'll call it. For nurses who see the person, not just the paperwork. Dr. Jareth was speechless. Maribel, this is millions. I know, I said. But I have one condition. I want the donation to be made public. Very public. I want the announcement to coincide with the auction of my son's house. The 30 days passed. Oswin and Calla couldn't get a loan. They couldn't refinance. The bank, acting on behalf of my trust, seized the house. The auction was set. The local paper, the Minnesota Star, got wind of the story, local son loses home, mystery widow funds hospital. Oswin came to my house alone, a week before the auction. He stood on the porch in the cold. Mom, please, he begged through the locked screen door. Calla's left me. She took the kids. I'm sleeping in my car. Please, don't do this. I looked at him, my son. You're worried about sleeping in a car, I said. I was worried about dying. A car is warmer than a grave, Oswin. I shut the front door. The day of the auction was bright and freezing. The snow crunched under my boots. Mr. Kincaid helped me out of his car, and I stood on the sidewalk, looking at the house I had paid for. It was a big, beautiful colonial, Calla's dream house. There were already people milling about, vulture-like. I saw Oswin's car parked across the street. He was slumped down in the driver's seat, watching. He was alone. Calla was smart enough to not show her face. The auctioneer began. He was fast, rattling off numbers. The bidding started low. A young couple made a bid. A developer made a bid. I just watched. Mr. Kincaid touched my arm. Maribel, are you sure? I nodded. The bidding stalled. Going once. Going twice. The auctioneer called out. Just as he was about to say sold, I raised my hand. The crowd went silent. I have a bid, I said, my voice clear in the cold air. The auctioneer looked at me, confused. Ma'am? My bid, I said, is the total outstanding balance of the loan, plus all fees. MRV, Kincaid stepped forward. My client represents the trust holding the lien. We are bidding the debt. It was a legal move. The bank, my trust, was buying back the property. The other bidders groaned. It was over. The house was mine. Again. The auctioneer banged his gavel. Sold, to the bank. I walked up the path to the front door. I put the new key in the lock. It was my house. I turned to look at Oswin. He was finally getting out of his car. He looked broken. He walked across the street, not angry, just empty. Mom, he said, his voice cracking. What now? I looked at my son, a 45-year-old man who had lost everything because of his own greed. Now, I said, opening the door, you help me clean. They thought I'd take the house and throw him out. But I had one last lesson to teach. I didn't make him clean the whole house. I just wanted to see if he would. He followed me inside. The house was a mess. Calla had taken everything of value, but left behind piles of junk, old magazines, and broken decor. It smelled like defeat. Oswin just stood in the grand foyer Calla had loved so much. She took everything, he whispered. Even the kids' photos. Material things, Oswin, I said, they aren't non-refundable, but they're not what matters either. I handed him a trash bag. Start in the kitchen. For 3 days, we worked. We didn't talk about the cruise. We didn't talk about the money. We just sorted and bagged and swept. He was quiet. I saw him pick up a framed drawing from his daughter, one Kala had left behind. He wiped the glass and tucked it into his coat. I saw my son, finally. Not the failure, not the betrayer, but the soft man Lowell had warned me about. The man who had been led by a sharp woman. It didn't excuse him. But it explained him. On the 3rd day, he said, "I'm sorry, Mom. I know I failed you. I was a coward. I let Kala. I just wanted her to be happy." "And what about my happiness?" I asked, not unkindly. He just shook his head, tears in his eyes. I didn't even think about it. That was the truth. He hadn't hated me. He just hadn't thought about me. That, in its own way, was so much worse. When the house was empty, I called a realtor. "I'm selling," I said. "And I'm not moving in." I took Oswin to a small apartment complex across town. "I've paid the first and last month's rent," I told him. "And I got you an interview at the hardware store. The rest is up to you." He just stared at me. "Mom, why?" "Because you're still my son," I said. "But you are not my heir." He got a second chance at life, but not at my money. The new cardiac wing at the hospital was ready for its grand opening. It was a beautiful, sunny spring day. 6 months had passed since my surgery. My scar had faded, but I was stronger. The hospital had invited the whole town. There was a big blue ribbon stretched across the new glass doors. Nurse Naoma, now the head of the geriatric nursing program I funded, was there. Dr. Jareth was there. Even Mr. Kincaid came. I was asked to say a few words. I stood at the podium, looking out at the crowd. I saw Oswin. He was standing in the back, wearing his hardware store uniform. He hadn't come for money. He had just come. "A heart," I said, "is a strong muscle. It's built to take a lot. But it can be broken." Mine was. Not by a bad valve, but by betrayal. The crowd stirred. But a heart can also be mended. Not just by doctors, but by kindness. I looked at Naoma. And by purpose. My late husband, Lowell, and I, we built a life here. We saved. We planned. We wanted to leave a legacy. We just disagreed on what that legacy should be. I smiled. I am proud to dedicate this wing. The Maribel and Lowell Miller Wing for Strong Hearts. Dr. Jareth unveiled a large bronze plaque. It had my name and Lowell's. But underneath, it said, "Funded by the sale of the non-refundable house." The reporter from the local paper, who I had personally invited, started taking pictures like crazy. Kala wasn't there. I'd heard she'd moved to Florida, trying to find another rich husband. But I knew she'd see the paper. I knew she'd understand the message. After the speeches, Oswin approached me. He wasn't crying. He just looked calm. "That was a good speech, Mom," he said. "It's a good thing you're doing." "I know," I said. I looked at him. Are you okay, Oswin?" He nodded. "I'm working. I'm saving. I'm going to counseling. I'm trying to be the man Dad wanted me to be." He looked at the plaque. "He would be proud of you, Mom." My revenge was complete. But was my story over? I didn't destroy my son. I destroyed the man he had become. The man Kala had built. My revenge wasn't a fire that burned everything down, it was a controlled burn, clearing out the rot so something new could grow. I sold my big, empty farmhouse. It had too many ghosts. I moved into a bright, new condo in a retirement community. The one I chose. It has a balcony where I grow tomatoes. Oswin stayed at the hardware store. He got a promotion. He calls me every Sunday. Not for money. Just to talk. He told me his kids, my grandchildren, wanted to see me. Kala had forbidden it, but they were older now. They found my number. Last week, my granddaughter, Cassidy, came to visit. She's 17. She has Kala's sharp eyes, but Lowell's kind smile. "Grandma," she said, "Dad told us, well, he told us he was stupid." I laughed. That's a good start. We baked cookies. It felt good. My life is full now. Naoma and her children come over for dinner. Dr. Jareth plays chess with me. And my heart? It's beating strong. The doctors at the new wing say I'm in perfect health. My revenge wasn't just about the money. It wasn't about the house. It was about taking back my life. It was about showing them, and myself, that I was not a frail old woman. I was not a signature on a piece of paper. I was Maribel Miller. I had survived. Oswin and I, we're not what we were. We can never go back. But maybe, we're building something new. He sent me a postcard last week. He'd taken his kids camping in the state park. On the back, it said, "No cruise, but we had fun. Love, Oswin." My name is on a building. My health is good. And my family, it's healing. They chose a non-refundable cruise. I chose a legacy. I think I got the better deal. Thank you for following Maribel's story. Sometimes the deepest revenge is building a new life. What did you think of her choice? Let me know in the comments, and subscribe for more stories.